My name is Jenna Harper. I'm 34 years old, a certified financial planner based in Denver, Colorado. And if you ask anyone who knows me, they'll probably describe me as the kind of woman who color codes her life. I don't mind. I've always believed that planning is a form of freedom. Every dollar I've saved, every decision I've made, every quiet no I've whispered to the temptations of excess, it's all led me here. I don't have a big life. I don't throw dinner parties. I don't chase luxury. I live in a small, sunlit apartment on the second floor of a quiet building owned by the parents of my college best friend, Rachel. They gave me a reduced rent because they said I was steady as a clock, and I am. I like routine. I like peace. I like watching the seasons change from my kitchen window while sipping lemon tea. I don't need more. My sister Samantha, or Sam, as everyone calls her, is the opposite. Always has been. If my childhood felt like a tucked-away notebook, hers was a front-page magazine spread. She was born with those sparkling hazel eyes, a perfect cheer captain smile, and an ability to command attention without saying a word. My parents never said she was their favorite. They didn't need to. The evidence was everywhere. From the way Dad used to light up when she entered a room, to the fact that Mom still keeps a collage of her high school dance photos on the living room wall. Sam got married young, 24, and now she has 2 kids, Zoe, age 9, and Max, who just turned 6. Her husband Brian was laid off from his engineering job last year, and since then, they've been living in a 2-bedroom condo downtown, where the walls are thin, the elevator's always broken, and rent creeps higher every quarter. At every family dinner, Sam sighs about the city noise, the cramped bedrooms, the bills that never stop coming. And while I never say it out loud, sometimes I sit there, sipping my water, wondering what it would be like if I got even half the sympathy she receives. I've worked since I was 17. College, paid for it myself with night shifts and community classes. Vacations, I traded flights for mountain hikes. While Sam got her first car as a graduation gift, I inherited Dad's old sedan and was told, "It runs fine, be grateful." I never complained. I just kept going. For 10 years, I've been saving toward a goal no one in my family really knew about. A home of my own. Not a mansion, not a status symbol. Just a small, quiet place with room for a garden and maybe a porch, where I could drink coffee in the morning sun. A house that was mine. Entirely mine. Last Sunday, I went to dinner at my parents' like I always do. Garlic bread, overcooked steak, and Sam's kids arguing over tablet chargers at the table. I wasn't planning to say anything, not yet. I wanted to finalize everything first, sign the papers, move in, and then maybe invite them over as a surprise. But while scrolling through listings on my phone, I saw it. A little cabin-style house in Evergreen. 2 bedrooms, a wraparound porch, raised garden beds already in place. And in that moment, I smiled. The kind of smile that slips out when something finally feels right. "What are you grinning at?" Sam asked, setting down her orange soda. I looked up, hesitated, and then said, "I'm house hunting. I'm planning to buy next month." The room went silent, like I'd just confessed I was moving to another planet. My mother's fork clinked against her plate. "You're buying a house?" she asked, eyebrows rising. "By yourself?" "Yes," I replied calmly. "I've been saving for years. I want someplace quiet, with space. Not too far from the city, but far enough to hear the wind again." Sam blinked. "For just you?" I nodded. "For me?" No one said anything for a moment. Then Mom leaned forward and said, with that tone she reserves for corrections dressed as concern, "Sweetheart, buying a house is a big decision. You should have talked to us first." I kept my voice even. "I didn't need help. I'm not taking out loans from anyone. I've planned for this. Every dollar accounted for." Sam's voice rose, just a touch. "It's not that we don't think you can. But Don't you think it should be a house with more rooms? You know, space for others. Others? I asked, half laughing. Who are these others? Their silence told me everything. The shared glances between Sam and my mom weren't just coincidence. Something was brewing. I just hadn't seen it clearly yet. Before we jump in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. 3 nights later, as I sat at my kitchen table reviewing mortgage documents and sorting through inspection reports, my phone buzzed. It was a message from my mother. I talked to Pastor Janice today. She says there's a beautiful 4-bedroom house in Willow Creek, just minutes from the elementary school. Big fenced yard, 2-car garage, room for the kids to play. Sending you the link. I didn't even have time to process that before another message came through, this time from Sam. You have to see this one. Seriously. Great neighborhood. Huge kitchen. Even has a bonus room you could use as an office. We could visit every weekend. There it was. That word again. I opened the listing out of sheer curiosity. It was practically a suburban dream. Vaulted ceilings, double ovens, a living room large enough to host Thanksgiving dinner. But it was the description that made me pause. Perfect for growing families. Not people like me. Not someone who preferred rosemary in the garden to noise in the hallways. I sighed, typed out a polite, "Thanks, but I'm looking for something quieter," and hit send. Sam replied with one word. Why? I didn't answer. 2 days passed. Then, during my lunch break, Mom called. Her voice buzzed with excitement. Jenna, I just drove by the house on Sycamore Lane, the one with the red shutters. Remember? It's even better in person. The owners are relocating and they've dropped the price. It's got a balcony off the master and a finished basement. You need to see it before it's gone. I closed my eyes. Mom, I'm not looking for that much space. It's just me. I don't have kids, and I'm not planning to have anyone else move in. There was a long pause. Then carefully she said, You say that now, but things change. And even if you don't need the space, Samantha and the kids could come up on weekends. You know how tight their apartment is. It would be good for them. That was the moment the puzzle pieces began to lock into place. The glances at dinner, the insistence on extra bedrooms, the listings sent without my request. They weren't just trying to help. They were trying to steer, to guide me, gently and quietly, into building a life that accommodated theirs. But what came next tore off the mask completely. That evening, as I was finishing up an email to my realtor, I received a voicemail. It was a woman's voice I didn't recognize. Cheerful, overly familiar. Hi, Jenna. This is Carla from Evergreen Realty. Just confirming that your sister dropped by today to view the Willow Creek property on your behalf. She mentioned you were serious about moving quickly, so we've gone ahead and penciled you in for Saturday's walkthrough. Looking forward to seeing you. I stared at the phone, my hands cold. My sister had visited a home in my name. Told a realtor I was planning to move forward. And worse, she'd done it without telling me. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the couch in the dark, the glow of the city lights seeping in through the blinds. My tea went cold. The spreadsheet I had lived by for a decade, the carefully built formula of freedom and independence, was being rewritten behind my back, not by strangers, but by my own family. And the scariest part? They thought it was love. The next morning, I called my realtor. Let's move forward with the Evergreen house, I said. No delays. I want to sign before the weekend. 2 days later, on a crisp Friday morning, I met the seller on the porch of a cedar cabin nestled at the edge of a pine grove. The air smelled like wildflowers and clean dirt. The sun filtered through the trees, casting soft shadows on the deck. It had 2 bedrooms, a galley kitchen, and a sunroom perfect for plants. There were no playrooms, No bunk beds, no family-sized sectional couches. It was small, and it was perfect. I signed the contract that morning. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I wanted the moment to be mine before the storm returned. Saturday evening, I showed up at my parents' house for dinner, like always. Garlic chicken, steamed. Broccoli, same mismatched placemats they've had for 20 years. Zoe and Max were watching cartoons in the next room. Sam was scrolling through her phone. Mom was plating dessert. I bought the house, I said softly, setting my napkin on the table. The room went still. Sam looked up slowly. You bought it? Like, already signed everything? I nodded, forcing a small smile. Last week, closings in 2 more. I move in before the end of the month. My mother's face fell, her mouth slightly open like I'd just confessed to committing a crime. She set the cake knife down with a loud thud. You made that decision without even discussing it with us. My father leaned forward, arms crossed. We were all trying to help. We'd been house hunting for you. We? I asked. But I already knew. Sam cleared her throat. Brian and we'd been thinking. The Willow Creek house was ideal. 4 bedrooms. The kids would each have their own space. It just made sense. You were planning for me to buy a house for you? My voice was quiet. Too quiet. Sam didn't blink. You live alone. You work from home. You have the money. We're drowning in that apartment and you're thriving. My mom cut in. Jenna, this isn't selfishness. This is family. You help when someone's struggling. I sat back, letting their words hang heavy in the air. My fingers tightened around the edge of my plate. I spent 10 years building something for myself. Every lunch I packed, every raise I saved, every night I stayed in while you all celebrated birthdays and vacations I couldn't afford. I didn't do that so I could hand over the keys to my peace. No one spoke. Brian, who had been quiet the entire time, finally said, Look, if it's the layout you don't like, I could renovate. Make it work for all of us. I turned to him, stunned. I don't want a house that works for all of us. I want a home that works for me. Sam's voice sharpened. You're being dramatic. We're just asking you to share a little. No, I said, standing slowly. You're asking me to give everything, again, without asking what I want. I grabbed my coat and my keys. My mom stood up as if to stop me, but I didn't give her the chance. At the door, Sam called after me. You're tearing this family apart over a house. I turned the knob, paused, then looked over my shoulder. It's not about the house, I said. It's about finally choosing a life that belongs to me. Then I walked out into the cold night air, not once looking back. The air outside was sharp, but it felt cleaner than anything I'd inhaled in months. I drove back to my apartment in silence, the radio off, the streets unfamiliar under a sky that looked a little too calm for the storm that had just unfolded. When I stepped inside, the door clicked shut behind me like a chapter closing, dry, firm, final. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by the furniture I'd had since grad school, the secondhand bookshelf filled with paperbacks I'd read 3 times over, the tiny cactus on the windowsill that had somehow survived years of neglect and fluorescent gloom. Everything felt still, except my phone, which buzzed almost immediately. 3 missed calls from Mom, 2 from Dad, 1 from Sam. Then the messages poured in. You need to come to your senses. Family doesn't shut each other out over a misunderstanding. Call me. Now. Are you seriously doing this? The kids don't deserve this kind of coldness. Each notification hit like a small tap on a bruise I hadn't admitted was there. I put the phone face down on the table and walked into the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and stared at my reflection. I didn't look angry. I didn't even look shaken. I just looked tired. Tired in a way I couldn't remember ever feeling before. That night, I slept only a few hours. I woke early, brewed coffee, and sat by the window as the sun lifted over the rooftops. There was no dramatic music, no life-altering epiphany, just a quiet realization that the door I'd closed wasn't going to reopen. Not in the same way. By mid-morning, more texts came, this time from extended family, Aunt Laura. I heard what happened. You're really going to cut off your own sister over some space? Uncle Jeff. Your mom's heartbroken. You need to be the bigger person. Bigger. That word stung more than I expected. As if being big always meant silent. As if maturity required surrender. I didn't respond. By afternoon, my decision had crystallized into something unshakable. I wasn't going to explain myself anymore. I didn't owe anyone a rationale. For protecting the one life I had spent years building, brick by quiet brick. I called the internet provider, updated my billing address. I emailed my lawyer and gave her the new property details. I scheduled the movers for the following Tuesday and paid the deposit in full. I packed slowly, one item at a time, one drawer, one book, one quiet memory. I wrapped my favorite mug in newspaper. I folded the quilt my grandmother had made. Each object had a place, a story, a belonging that didn't require anyone's approval to exist. 2 days before the move, I received an anonymous email. No subject, just one sentence. Family shouldn't be abandoned over money. I didn't need to guess who it came from. I opened my laptop and typed back, "It's not about money. It's about not living in a home where my decisions don't matter." I hit send, closed the lid. And for the first time in months, I felt something that resembled peace. The morning of the move was clear and cool. The sky was streaked with that early spring blue that only shows up after a long, punishing winter. The moving truck arrived right on time. The driver smiled politely. No questions, no assumptions, just a job to do. I hadn't told anyone my new address. Not my parents, not Sam, not even Rachel, until the day after I moved in. I wasn't afraid they'd show up. I just didn't want to leave a trail behind. Not until I'd had a chance to breathe. The evergreen house welcomed me with stillness. The pine trees whispered overhead as if they knew how badly I needed to be heard by no one. The air smelled of old wood, damp earth, and faint traces of lavender left behind by the last owner. I stood in the middle of the living room, boxes, still stacked against the wall, and let the quiet fill every crack inside me. For the first time in my life, I painted a wall whatever color I wanted. I chose a soft olive green for the office. I planted tomato seeds in the greenhouse, bought a hammock for the back deck, and treated myself to a brand new tea kettle that whistled just the way I liked. I didn't wait for guests. I didn't decorate. For show. I bought a patio set simply because I wanted to drink morning tea in the sun. A week after settling in, I joined the local gardening club. I showed up early to the first meeting, nervous and unsure if I'd made a mistake. But Grace, the host, greeted me with a smile so warm it could have melted snow. She asked what I liked to grow, not where I came from. No one pried, no one commented on how quiet I was. They just asked if I'd ever tried growing marigolds and whether I had room for a compost bin. It was Grace who introduced me to Miles, a freelance landscaper who stopped by a week later to help me fix the drip irrigation system. He didn't ask if I was married, didn't raise an eyebrow when I said I lived alone. We talked about herbs, light conditions, and how to keep deer from nibbling at the lavender. He left with a wave and a promise to return with extra mulch. And he did. Life didn't explode into joy. It unfolded, quietly, kindly, like a garden left to bloom at its own pace. I found a rhythm. Saturdays at the farmer's market. Wednesday. Book club at the library. Walks by the creek just because the weather was nice. Occasionally, someone from my old life would appear in the corner of a social media post, a blurry glimpse of Sam and the kids at a birthday party. Or my mom, standing behind a bake sale table with her church group. Once, I saw a caption, Some people forget what family means, but we still smile anyway. I scrolled past it like a ghost walking through a house she no longer lived in. I didn't feel the need to respond. I had already answered in the only way that mattered, with silence. And with a door that now only opened from the inside. One late afternoon in October, as golden leaves rustled across the deck and the air hinted at the first chill of winter, the doorbell rang. I hadn't been expecting anyone. I dried my hands on a dish towel and walked toward the door, heart picking up a beat. Through the peephole, I saw them, Sam, standing stiffly in a gray hoodie, her hair unkempt, eyes darker than I remembered. Behind her, Zoe clutched a worn tote bag, and Max leaned against the porch railing, his shoes too small, his eyes tired. I opened the door without saying anything. Sam looked like she'd been holding her breath since she parked the car. I wasn't sure I was still allowed to knock, she said quietly. I didn't move aside. I didn't reach for a hug, but I didn't shut the door either. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then Zoe looked up and asked in a voice barely louder than a whisper, "Aunt Jenna, Mommy said if we were good, we could see your garden." I glanced at her, then at the small bag in her hands, the hopeful look not yet dulled by life. "I just planted white chrysanthemums," I said softly. "Want to see?" Zoe nodded. Max followed behind her like a shadow. Sam and I sat on the edge of the porch while the kids wandered between the flower beds. The silence between us wasn't cold. It was cautious, uncertain, like two people standing on the edge of something that used to be solid but now needed testing with every step. She held her tea mug with both hands, staring into the steam. "I thought you'd always be the one to make space, like before, like Mom said we should expect." I didn't look at her. "I'm not the same person I was before. I can tell." Her voice cracked, barely. "You're stronger now. Not mean. Just clear." I took a breath. I got tired of being the plan B, the safety net, the one expected to fold quietly into whatever shape the family needed that day. Sam nodded slowly. "I was wrong to assume. Wrong not to ask. I told myself it was love, but really, it was habit and entitlement." She didn't say the word sorry, but maybe she didn't need to. She was sitting on my porch instead of walking through my door. That night, after they left, I found a folded note stuck inside the gate latch. It was written in Zoe's handwriting, crooked, full of spelling errors and innocence. "Aunt Jenna, I helped Mom clean the apartment. She's trying hard. She still makes tea too strong, but I'm teaching her. P.S. I like the purple flowers best." I held the note to my chest, not because it erased the past, but because it reminded me that healing doesn't always come in grand gestures. Sometimes it's a child remembering which flower she liked in your garden. 3 weeks later, I was walking down the hallway of my office building when I saw her, Sam, standing near the elevator, holding a folder, dressed in business casual. That looked one size too big, but worn with purpose. She didn't wave. She just gave a small, subtle nod as I passed, and I nodded back. It wasn't dramatic. It was respectful. It was new. That same afternoon, our HR manager forwarded me a reference letter from a new candidate applying for our financial mentorship program. The letter said, "I've been guided by someone who showed me what quiet strength looks like. She didn't push me. She stood her ground and let me fall, so I could learn how to rise. Her name is Jenna Harper, and I want to follow in her footsteps." There was no name on the sender line, but I didn't need one. I never replied. I didn't need to. Some weeks later, I came home from a rainy morning at the library to find a basket on my front steps. Inside were a few tangerines, a jar of clover honey, and a small bundle of dried rosemary. No note. But I knew it was from Miles. That evening, I sat on the porch with a cup of warm tea, the scent of pine and rosemary mixing in the air. I watched the sky darken into twilight and listened to the soft sound of wind threading through the trees. I thought about all the versions of me that had existed before. The one who tried to earn affection with silence. The one who apologized for needing space. The one who smiled while being sidelined. She was gone. What remained was someone who chose her own life, who built peace and protected it, who didn't open the door to just anyone, but left the light on for those who knew how to knock. Family, I realized, isn't just about blood or birthdays or obligations. It's about boundaries. It's about respect. It's about people who show up without expecting entry, people who pause on your porch and ask, "May I come in?" And sometimes the most beautiful reconciliation doesn't come with words. It comes with space. It comes with stillness. It comes with chrysanthemums blooming beside the rosemary.